This is Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks from Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Roadmap Radio with your host, Mark Fricks.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with me, your host, Mark Fricks of Master Plan Retirement Consultants, and with us today, our favorite host, co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. And Tony, are you there and listening and hearing and speaking?
I am.
Good.
We've overcome some technical hurdles once again today, but I made it. I'm a little achy, though, this past weekend. All my wife wanted for Mother's Day was our entire backyard re-landscaped. Well, I didn't quite accomplish it, but I got a lot done, the main things she wanted done, but a lot of digging, a lot of hauling of topsoil bags, and I found out doing all this, and I also found out I have an allergy. I found out to manual labor. So I'm allergic to hard work, apparently.
And it gets worse the older you get, too, right?
It does, yeah. I'm not as young or as in shape as I used to be, apparently, because it hit me hard. I worked all day, worked hard, felt good. You know, it feels good to get that accomplished, but the aches and pains have lingered for a few days here. But I'm good. I can't complain. Sometimes I still do, but I shouldn't. How about you? How are you, Mark?
Well, actually, I'm a little sore, too. I started working out again this past weekend.
Oh, wow.
I had not worked out for a few months, actually since Christmas, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But, I'm a little tired. It wasn't from yard work, but, you know, kind of the same effect. You're like, oh, I didn't know I had that muscle. It snuck its ugly head up. So, but anyway, it's good. And, you know, I'm glad we're healthy enough to get out there and do that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's good for you, right? It's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
So
do the front yard next weekend, okay?
Front yard's pretty good. Let's not get carried away, Mark.
I'm sorry.
So what are we talking about on the show today?
Yeah, so today I think is a show that will touch many people. And you know, it's something we've talked about before, but I don't think we've concentrated a whole show on it. And so it's going to be everything you always wanted to know about your 401k. But didn't know what to ask. I kind of added the byline there. So we're going to talk about 401ks because it is the largest savings vehicle in the country. It's more money than 401ks. And when I say 401ks, I'm including 403bs, 457s, thrift savings plans for federal workers, all of those. They all
any
work
type
the same.
of employer-sponsored retirement savings plan.
Yes, ERISA.
Yeah.
ERISA accounts, which are employee-sponsored plans. And so they fall under certain rules, but we're going to talk about those today.
I had an Aunt ERISA, but whole different story there.
Oh, weird. I have an Uncle ERISA. We should get them together. They wouldn't have to change towels. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah, bad jokes.
Yeah, too early in the morning to sip on brandy, right?
Right.
So, which is why I use cough medicine this early. So.
Oh, Mark.
No, not really.
But
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm sorry. Bad jokes. So let's talk about 401ks. So again, 401ks are a very powerful tool, but with power comes some dangers too. And that's why I want to kind of clarify all this to make sure people are taking advantage of what they need to be taken care of or using and how to use them. And of course, I want to, you know, my disclosure as always is this is not recommendations. I'm not telling you to go out and make a change. I'm alerting you. And then if you want to talk about your particular situation, of course, anybody that listens to our show knows that we offer complimentary consultations, chats, typically virtual chats to answer the questions that come up because of the radio show, because of the information we share, and maybe find out enough about you to give you some answers that apply to you and your life because we are all different. So I don't want anyone to ever take what we say as, hey, run out and do this type of thing. But some good information that will hopefully help folks think, stir up some stuff, and make some changes.
Well, everybody I know has a 401k, it seems, or or some type of sponsored plan, except I know a few government workers, and they either have a pension or a 457 or a 403B if they're a teacher. So, yeah, they have one of these types of plans, and I know that there are a lot of misconceptions out there about them, and I think people think they have a basic understanding of what their 401k is and how it works and what it does, but yet a lot of people don't realize many things about them. And so how would you like to get us started today? Where do you want to jump in on this topic?
Well, I think I will talk about the most powerful thing and also perhaps the most dangerous thing. I think it's a good place to start. So the most powerful thing is the tax protection. Okay, so as you probably know, any money you put into your 401k doesn't count towards your income. So that money is not reported as taxable. Therefore, you save money on your taxes. That's called pre-tax contributions. And so you get a break going in, and then it's never taxed during growth. So if you work for a company for 40 years, that 401k is never taxed. However, what happens when you start using it is when they get the taxes. And so there's the old story of the farmer, and the way he pays his taxes is he plants his crop and harvests his crop, and then he sells it and pays taxes on the profit. And so that's kind of how the 401k works. You get this tax break during all the harvesting. During all the growth and putting seed in the ground, which is contributions, but you have to pay the pipers. So we're beginning to pay more attention to that because as we know already, we are being promised that taxes are going to go up. And here we have 80 million baby boomers reaching the age to where they have to take money out of their 401ks or IRAs, which is what a 401k becomes when you roll it over from work. It becomes an IRA, same rules. And so we call that, I think Ed Slott, the famous CPA from New York that talks a lot about taxes, calls that the ticking tax time bomb. And so here you're building up all this money and all this harvest, and then you start taking out to live on, or you start having to take it out at age 72. And not only are you being taxed on other income, but now you've got this additional amount of money. And just to give you an example, $1 million IRA at age 72, you're going to be required to take out around $40,000. Okay, that may not seem like, okay, well, 5 years later, that's going to equal about $60,000. 5 years later, it's going to be about $80,000. So it's an increasing amount you have to take out every year. And the general conception or the idea from the government is we want this empty by the time you pass away. Now, typically it's not, but then your kids get to pay taxes on it. So either way, so you have to be careful. And so what's good, and it's amazing how many people don't know this, is that most companies now have a Roth option in their 401k. And so a Roth is kind of the opposite. You don't get a deduction going in, right? So people are like, hey, I got to pay taxes this year. Yeah, but you're not going to ever pay them again. It grows tax-free and it comes out tax-free. So the rate could be 90% when you're age 75. Every dollar that comes out of the Roth is not taxable. So you have to be careful. I mean, if you're putting $15,000 a year into your 401k, you're getting a certain tax break. If you suddenly switch that all to the Roth, you're going to see less money in your paycheck. So I tell people to dip your foot in the water. Put a little bit, put 1% or 2% in the Roth for a couple of months. See what it does to your paycheck. If it's not too painful, bump it up some more until you can get it all in the Roth. I think the more the better, because any match that your company may give, and most companies have gone back to a match, goes into the traditional part. So there's still money going into the traditional 401k or IRA portion. So that's the first thing, is the power of the tax break. But eventually you got to pay for that. And so that's why you've got to be careful. And that's why it's a one-on-one situation. It's different for everyone. And so you can't just say, okay, put all your money in the Roth portion. Well, that may not be true for your situation. So if that's something you're not sure about, first of all, ask your company, if you don't know, if they have a Roth option. I know the federal government, the Thrift Savings Plan, now has a Roth option. It's been around for 4 or 5 years. And half the federal workers I talked to didn't even know it was there, and probably didn't really know what it was. So I guess that's kind of point number one, is understand how your money's going in, how it's going to be taxed, so you can understand appropriately your tax situation in retirement.
Well, and we've talked about that on previous shows, and you've really, I think, hammered that home for me. The fact that with any type of retirement account, the first thing you need to look at and be aware of are the tax implications.
Right.
And so every retirement account, that's what a 401k is or IRA is. That's a tax designation for the money that's in whatever type of investment it's in, stocks or what have you. Really, the retirement account designation set by the government and the IRS is all about taxes. So I think that is a key one. I'm glad you brought that up. So that's the first point, and I think a biggie. What's another point that we need to be aware of, Mark, when it comes to 401ks?
Yeah, something that came up about 3 years ago was the fact that after a government study, they found that 401ks actually were many times one of the more expensive investments. And people would go, well, I don't see anything on my, there's a couple of charges here, but not much, but most of them are hidden. So starting, I think about 3 years ago, the government required the 401k company every year to send out a publication to everybody participating, declaring and dissecting the fees and charges in a 401k. So, based on what you're getting, which is just a bunch of mutual funds to choose from, typically no management, is up to you to choose them. It's a fairly expensive, little account to have. So, you might want to talk to your employer about that and get them to maybe negotiate a better cost. Or there's some other options we're going to go over here in a minute as well. But that's one thing to be careful of. Don't be afraid to read that publication. It's a little daunting. It's kind of like a prospectus. You're like, you want me to read this? But it can be helpful. Go to the chapter about fees and cost and charges and just kind of see where your 401k at your job lies in the spectrum, and if and see what you're paying and then see what you're getting and then make a decision. And I guess one of the things I talk about with a lot of clients is how much do you want to put into this type of an account? And why do I ask that? Well, if you are putting money into an IRA, you can only put in $6,000 a year, $7,000 if you're 50 and older. 401k, you can put in up to $26,000 if you're 50 or older. So, there's certainly more you can put into a 401k, but some people will say, hey, just put in the match. So if they're matching 5%, you put in 5%. Then the other money you've got, we're going to put into an IRA and or a Roth and spread this out some and have some other accounts that perhaps have better management than your 401k that somebody can actively manage, maybe reduce the risk, maybe hopefully get a little bit better return depending on, again, the money manager. But there's more than just saying, I'm going to put as much as I can in the 401k. I always like to review, what are you putting in? Are you putting in at least enough for the match? Please do that. You're throwing away money. That's free money. So at least put in the match. But over and above that, you probably want a strategy, and that's where you need somebody like a retirement consultant like our firm to really look at the tax implications and the numbers of what you're saving and can save and what are your other options there.
Well, yeah, another great one, another great point. And so you need to understand where your money's at, how it's working for you. And I think a lot of people with 401ks, the HR department at your company or your company just gives you, you don't have that many selections a lot of times. You got
exactly.
high risk, medium risk, low risk, check a box.
Pretty much.
Check a few boxes, and there's not very many choices. But what's in those? What's in each of those? What specifics? And that type of thing. So there's a lot more to be considered, and that's where a financial professional like yourself comes in. Before you make these, you don't want to make uneducated guesses or decisions when it comes to, we're talking about your income in retirement. That's
right.
A huge part of your life. People are living longer and longer. You want to be able to enjoy your retirement and live comfortably. You don't want to be losing money because you made, poor decisions or didn't have a strategy going in.
Right. And some people do too much. They're in there, every few weeks making a switch, and they end up, buying at the wrong time and selling at the wrong time. We actually now, Tony, I don't think I've told you this, but the nation's largest employer type ERISA account is the federal government thrift savings plan. And now we have the capability of actually managing that account for people that still have money in their thrift savings plan, TSP. And so that's powerful that now they can actually have somebody go in there and make changes for them based on computer algorithms and information built into the computer from the history of the stock market that, again, is designed, the target is an additional 2 to 4% in return. That's not guaranteed. That's the target with a little bit less risk. And so that you just kind of get to take your hands off the steering wheel and let somebody handle that for you. And, with the extra little bit of a fee you're paying, you should get a better return to certainly not only pay that fee, but make money above that. So something that we're offering now, if you're listening and you want to talk more about that, certainly we can do that as well. So.
Right. There you go. And I think that's really important. Now, why don't we take a moment to let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you, Mark, to set up a no-cost, no-obligation consultation?
Yeah, we've really got it down to just great science. We start off with like a 20 to 30-minute virtual chat. That way you don't have to leave your house or work, and we're able to just find out, just answer some questions for you, see where your dangers are, what you're thinking about, what you're afraid of in retirement. Are you ready? And so after that chat, many people, we will run some complimentary reports for them, anywhere from 7 to 10 reports telling us where their weaknesses are. How could you run out of money? What kind of strategies do you need to make sure that you have a retirement you don't have to worry about, that you can enjoy retirement without the stress of, is my money going to last? What if the market crashes? What if taxes go up? All of these areas we want to look at. So the first chat, again, is 20 or 30 minutes. And if it's like, after chatting, you're like, hey, I want to take a deeper look at this, we'll run the reports. You also get a complimentary copy of my book, The Road Less Traveled, which is about creating a retirement roadmap. So I would say the best thing to do, Tony, would be to two things. Number one, the old-fashioned phone call. Give us a call at 770-980-9262. But what's becoming much more popular is visiting the website, masterplanretire.com. First of all, you can find more about us, but also there's a little button on the bottom right-hand corner that says schedule an appointment. You push that button and my personal calendar pops up, and you can choose whatever time is available. So that's a very easy way to do it. Gets right on my calendar. We immediately can begin preparing for it. We'll send you out a Zoom invitation. If you don't love Zoom, we'll talk on the telephone. That's fine too. But very simple way to do it. Masterplanretire.com is a great place to go.
All right, thanks, Mark. And listeners, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more of Retirement Roadmap Radio and our host, Mark Fricks, after this. And welcome back to Retirement Roadmap Radio. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, the man with the plan, Mark Fricks. In fact, it's Master Plan, your retirement, right, Mark?
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, Mark, great show so far. We're talking about 401ks and employer-sponsored retirement plans and things people don't realize. The big one for me, there are a couple, but you mentioned fees. A lot of people don't understand that they are paying fees in their 401ks, and that money isn't being managed in those accounts for free. There are fees involved, and that's yet another reason to work with a financial professional like yourself, Mark. And you've covered some great rules, taxes, talking about how taxes affect these types of accounts, and you have to plan for that. What's next?
Well, this is probably the greatest opportunity that I want to talk about here to get close to the end of the show here. And it's called an in-service transfer. So most 401k plans, and in fact the majority of them now, will allow an employee, once they reach 59 and a half, even though they're still working for the company, can actually roll a portion or all of that 401k over to a personal IRA. And so why is that important? Why did that come up? Well, that came up because the government realized that up until that point, let's say you retired April 1st, it's another 30 to 45 days before you can touch that 401k because they've got to get the last couple of paychecks in and things like that. Now you can do something with it. Well, you're already a month and a half into retirement. Now you've got to roll it over somewhere and make it more powerful. So the government said, let's give people a head start on this. So now at 59 and a half, or later, still working. That's why it's called an in-service transfer or rollover. You can roll all or a portion of that 401k over to an IRA or more than one IRA so that you can begin preparing for retirement. And why that's important is this. I'll tell folks the purpose of your 401k, it really only has one job, and that's growth. You're putting money in, they're putting money in, it's growing in the market. You just kind of watch it grow, okay? But when you retire, how many jobs does that 401k have? I can think of 4, 5, or 6, okay? So what we do is we'll take that money, we'll divide it up into different types of IRAs. So let's say IRA 1, that job is to provide income. So we find the very best IRA account tool that will provide the most income with the least amount of money. That's its job. That's its only job. Then the next box or bucket, we like to call them, maybe its job is to begin income in 10 years because of inflation. So we want a little bit different kind of an income bucket that has 10 years of growth, then can provide great income. And so that's a different type of tool. And then maybe you've got a bucket that its job is to be a kind of conservative investment so that every year you can pull money out to take a vacation, to go to Europe. Maybe it's some house stuff to do every year, $20,000 roof, $15,000 deck or whatever. So we know we're going to be dipping into it, but not every month, maybe once or twice a year. And then bucket 4 might be a kind of a midterm growth bucket. So maybe we think we might touch it every 10 years or so. Or maybe we have a special something we want to do. We want to buy a lake house in 10 years. And then we might have a longer term. And then you might have a final bucket that we call our healthcare bucket. So that we're not going to touch it until we're 80 or 90 years old, so that it can be there to take care of long-term care, deductibles, and so it can be fairly aggressive. And so now you've got different tools for different jobs. It's almost like a football team. We're here in Atlanta, and so the Falcons are our team. And I tell people, I said, Matt Ryan, who's the quarterback, I think a soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback, he never plays linebacker, does he? He never. He doesn't kick off.
Right.
He doesn't. He doesn't block, or very rarely does he block. Okay. He usually gets out of the way. What does he do? His specialty is quarterbacking. So every day he's practicing, handing off the ball, calling plays, throwing the ball, and doing his specialty. Okay. So he's going to be the most efficient at that, as opposed to when I was in Pee Wee football, okay, and our job was 11 kids to run after the ball carrier. I mean, everybody had the same job. Go after the ball, boys. That's the play, okay? And so that's kind of the 401k. Job is just to grow. Go after the growth, okay? So it really makes it so much more powerful. So if you can take every member of that team and make them 10%, just 10% better, the whole team is now 110% better, right? So
wow.
You've doubled the output of the team just by making every little piece more efficient. So that's why the in-service transfer is so important, because we can go and get that to work and get it in the buckets it needs to be in. And that way, the day you retire, boom, we're able to turn on income. We're able to start providing vacation money. We've got these things. I call it seasoning. These buckets have had time to season. And what's great is this, Tony, you can still keep contributing to your 401k at work. And they will still keep it open, and they will still keep matching if they match. So it doesn't close your 401k. It just gets some of it out there. So sometimes we'll roll it over every year. After it's built up some, we'll roll over some more and put it in one of the buckets and get it to work and get it under the right management and things like that. So a very powerful tool. Virtually every 401k allows this. Some of them allow you to do 100%, some of it at 80% or whatever, but we don't know till we call, okay? But that needs to be something you do. Again, hopefully people are getting help in their mid-50s, late 50s before their retirement date. I love the phone call I get, and the guy or girl says, "Hey, Mark, I'm retiring Wednesday. Can you help me?" Well, yeah, I can help you, but I can help you a whole lot more if you'd called me 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. So, and it's so funny, Tony, almost everybody we work with, one of the main things they say is, "I wish I had called you earlier." I mean, if I had $1
Yep.
for every time that has been said, I would have a lot of money. Okay, so it's just
I've said that to
amazing.
you for more reasons than one, too.
Exactly. And so it's so funny. And I said, well, I'm glad you did now. I'm glad you didn't wait another 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's powerful. The in-service rollover is a powerful tool.
Sure. Well, I tell you what, we're out of time for today's show, Mark. It just flew by. Is there anything else you want to add before we have to go?
Well, people listening on podcast or on the live radio show or on the radio program, also a new YouTube channel, by the way. If you just type in Master Plan Retirement, we're adding these videos of the radio shows to that, other videos to educate people. But biggest thing is just contact us and find out. Typically after we do a show, there's something in the back of your mind that now you're wondering about. Okay, Mark mentioned this. That could be a problem for me. So just either call us, 770-980-9262, or better yet, visit the website, click on the schedule your appointment button, get on the calendar with me. I do stay pretty booked out for several weeks in advance, but you may find a slot here, a slot there. Sometimes a Saturday is open. So get that scheduled. I mean, you're not going to lose anything, and hopefully you're going to gain a lot of things. And even if you're not a good fit for us, I will answer your questions and give you some guidance. So again, masterplanretire.com. There's also a page of upcoming classes. So we do virtual classes, learn all about every segment of retirement as well. So masterplanretire.com, Tony's a great place to go.
All right, sounds great. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with our host, Mark Fricks.
And we've had a great time. We hope you'll join us again, same time, same place next week. And in the meantime, remember always to plan well and prosper. Have a good week, everybody.